This episode's made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 online art school in the entire planet. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Vincent, background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we're going to talk about how artificial intelligence will take your creative jobs.
But before we get into it, make sure to like, jingle, touch those bells and buttons over there. Help us out in the algorithm with this new channel. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Please and thank you. This is the new channel. Welcome back. I see a handful of familiar faces again. Welcome back. You know, new channel, same old us.
Yep.
Oh, and besides these colors. I don't know. What do you think of these colors?
The celebratory
hooray!
First official episode on this
channel. This is amazing. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, just to keep everything cohesive.
Yes.
Nice and smooth for everyone to navigate.
For like a year. Wanting to do this.
And then we had to take all the episodes and then put them in this. Oh my goodness gracious. I wish we had AI to take care of that. Oh.
Yeah, or just some little monkey or something. It was awful. I had to do it. It was bad.
I was like, I'm not doing that. The amount of external hard drives to sift through is no good.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 of them. So this was a much requested episode. For whatever reason, everyone has been asking all the artists to talk about AI art. I didn't really want to talk about it because I didn't really have thoughts about it. But then while I was on Twitter and looking at like the Cartoon Network news of the past week, I saw some people's tweets also about AI art and complaining about it and like NFTs and stuff like that. And I was like, why are people complaining about that? So I guess it's finally time for our 2 cents on AI art and how it's going to take your creative jobs. So I actually haven't prior to researching this episode, I've kind of heard through the grapevine what it is. Like apparently you can enter prompts into a algorithm app thing and then it will output some art. And because I follow this one artist on Instagram who's kind of known for being an artist who combines art and new tech, and like she's sponsored by a lot of tech companies to make user-friendly stuff with the new tech. So she adopted like augmented reality stuff really early on. She adopted vertical video really early on, and I remember she did this crazy project with AI art. So that's all I knew about it. I've never actually seen it used or done. But you have.
I have.
Yeah.
I had the funny idea, and like it's so funny. When Dall-e came out, and what was this? Like, I'm sure it was a lot earlier than when I found out about it. But I found out about it, I think before we moved here.
Really? That early?
I told you. I was like, oh, I have a project for you. It's going to require you to like draw on a piece of paper on a Sharpie.
I remember this. You didn't tell me what it was.
Yeah, and then I was like too lazy to do it. But what I wanted to do was to like make you kind of like give you a prompt just like I would with Dall-e, and then I would type it into Dall-e, and then you would use your storyboarding Sharpie skills to like
just draw it,
and then we'll see, just compare it.
It's faster.
And then it's hilarious that I just sat on that idea and like we moved and like everything, you know.
Yeah.
And then like the people started doing that. They
really?
did like shootouts between like me versus the AI.
The computer.
And I was like, interesting. So I was like, I was really fascinated by it just because, like, from a very basic meme generator thing. Like, I remember putting the silliest shit in it. Oh wait. Should we describe what this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've seen it in action.
I've seen it in action. I thought this is hilarious. To me, I was like, oh, this is like the craziest meme generator ever.
So today, we finally showed me what it is. I see it in action. So you basically, you it's this like website app thing, and you enter prompts in to like this query bar, and you enter like cat eating an apple or something like that, and then the computer, the AI, will load, and then it'll output their version of a cat eating an apple. What I thought it was, because previous iterations of this kind of technology back in the day when we were like really young, was like computer generated like photo bashing. I thought it was like, oh, so it just took a picture of a cat it found in Google and an apple, and then it just like bashed it together. But no, the reason why people are freaking out about this is because it takes references from things it's already seen before, but it's not taking things that already exist, like photos or art that has already existed, and like bashing it together. It's creating something completely new. So you can get some like really cool, trippy images. And it can copy art styles, which I thought was crazy.
If you say like, oh, Homer Simpson in the style of Degas, it'll look like Homer Simpson with the crayon stuff.
Yeah.
And now there's 2 apps that are pretty big, or at least like, as of this recording.
Yeah,
and it's Dall-e, which is, you put like whatever prompt in, and it comes up with, I think, 9 images, like 3 across and 3 below. And then there's the Dreamstudio, which I didn't know this existed. I thought it was just Dall-e.
It seems like people like it more.
The Dreamstudio one?
Because it's like uncensored.
Yeah, but then because I think it doesn't have to render 3 pictures, I think it's faster, right? We noticed that?
Yeah.
So there's 2 of them, and people have been having a lot of fun using these things.
We watched 2, kind of 3 different types of videos on like people just inputting stuff, and it's really neat to see what it can come up with.
Should we try it right now on the show? No, you don't feel like it?
No.
You're not that excited.
I don't care. Yeah.
Okay.
But like to see it try to do like photoreal, or do like an impressionist style, or like a Renaissance style. I've seen people enter in like hentai. Have you seen? Have you seen the one where they enter politicians and hentai?
Oh no! Yeah, I guess you can't do that in Dall-e, probably, but
probably not.
Probably can on Dreamstudio.
But like it was on, like it was trending on Twitter because it was like AOC and like. But,
my!
And it genuinely looks really good.
Oh no! Like faffable.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
shit!
For some people, yeah. Yeah,
Dang,
it's convincing.
AI,
yeah.
Oh no! all those really talented people in Japan. No.
So there are some restrictions to the Dall-e program. It, for whatever reason, doesn't allow you to input notable figures like celebrities, like politicians, stuff like that. But then Dreamstudio does. Like it's basically completely uncensored, and it's they say it's because like why not? Essentially, it's just why not.
Cool, man.
So like you can put some questionable things. We watched this Wall Street Journal video on it.
I think it's the very first video you'll probably see if you
type in AI art.
Yeah, on YouTube.
And they basically had the example. They tried doing like a terrorist attack, whatever, in both programs, and Dall-e didn't really do anything. It was just like mushy car accident stuff. And then they inputted it in Dreamstudio, and it was like, okay, like it looked kind of convincing, not super convincing, but like they're like, well, people usually aren't that discerning on the internet. They're just quickly scrolling, and they were like, the implications of that are kind of not great. But I was looking at all that, and in general, overall, my first reaction to the program was like, oh, this is cool. Especially when they said
It didn't freak you out?
no, not
Did
at
it weird
all.
you out?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Not at all. I thought when they mentioned Microsoft is already buying some of this technology or using it to be able to help people create images for like their websites, advertisements, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, so it's like the next clip art. Remember when there was clip art back in the day?
Back in the 90s, man.
In Microsoft Word.
Explain to the Gen Z what clip art is.
It's
Man.
basically like stock imagery.
Okay.
And
That's basically
yeah.
a pretty good way to
It's like really low quality vector based art that you use in your like PowerPoints. Like the star and the rainbow and you know, paperclip, stuff like that.
The happy face man with the overly rendered eyes. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah. But I also, well, first of all, I thought it was really cool because I was like, man, went from what we had when we were kids to now, this is a crazy improvement.
This is insane.
And even though some of the stuff is hilarious when you input it, just get like the not great stuff that comes out, but like it's trying. I can see how like in a few years, it's not gonna be so funny anymore.
Yeah, man.
When it's putting out stuff exactly as you asked it to, with like no issues.
You mean like to ask it to make something and we're at a point where it's super convincing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's no problems and stuff like that. I actually wasn't a huge fan of how Dall-e kind of censors itself by not allowing you to make. Their example was like Joe Biden eating a cupcake, and it just wouldn't allow you to do that.
But if you put it in Dreamstudio,
you can do that. Yeah.
The images you'll see.
I don't like that because like if you had a problem with people like making whatever out of like just whatever is in their head, you can ask an AI to make it. You shouldn't have made the AI to begin with. But now that you've made it, it's like no going back. The fact that you want to censor it is kind of ridiculous because clearly another app is going to come out competing with you, being like, we're not going to censor it, you know, because humans are going to human. And we will, like, whatever our sick mind thinks, we will want to do it. And especially when you go, like, don't push the button, then you really want to push the button. So I was like, people will find a way. And you can't, you try to censor.
But playing devil's advocate, somebody would say, oh, somebody with a darker mind than ours, will think something that we... to use it in a harmful way that even we can't even think of in a million years. Like, there are like implications here of like, you know, the possibility for fake news in the future and all this stuff that like you can basically put any politician or any celebrity and make them do whatever and say, hey, they did this. I mean, you know, like it's just like it's beyond our imagination, and there will be like this, I think like this like event horizon, this like this place that we'll go, and once we go past it, we can never go back, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a way, we're like in a way, like you said, we're already past that because it's here. It's already here.
It's here. Whether you like it or not, it is here. And like the fact that deepfakes exists, it's like
that fucking blew my mind already, man.
So like
that was insane. So you could put anybody's face on anybody's face. That's like.
And
already that's problematic.
So it's like it's already here. So it exists. Like it's like putting Pandora's box back into the box. Like you opened it. Like there's no going back. And yeah, generally, I'm not very intimidated by it because an artist is more than just like their ability to make a piece of art. And we'll explain more later. But what was your first reaction to it?
Kill it with fire! I was like, the fuck is this thing? I like to mess around with it like a kid playing with fire.
Yeah.
But I was like, at the end of it, I was like, oh no, this cannot continue to exist, man. And it's like a lot of people have the, like, I guess, I mean, we can talk about it right now. I think it's a sentiment that, like, at this point, we don't have to talk about too much because it seems like it's, like you said, we didn't have to watch many videos to understand what the thesis was, which was like, this is a tool. Most artists aren't, like, especially like established ones who are confident artists are gonna go like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm not gonna feel like that's I'm not gonna feel threatened by that or insecure by that.
Right.
For me, it's more of a, like, the implications of the future of what people could do with this, or what if the AI can just do it on its own. I don't know.
Right. Like,
I don't
you
know.
didn't even ask it to generate anything.
Yeah,
it just does.
I don't know. Like, something like that. And I just feel like this is beyond, like, so when you, like, it's fun for us to predict, right? Mm-hmm. When you introduce something like this into the equation, like, how the fuck are we going to predict anything? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes everything super messy when, like, you can't, it'll be, like, so my thing is, like, when AI generated whatever will be indistinguishable from reality, from what you can take from your phone or a camera. Mm-hmm. How will we adapt mentally to all of that? Right. Because, like, we can't trust anything that is on the screen, like, literally anything. We'll have to just go, like, if it's on a screen, it's most likely to be fake.
Yes. I mean, I think for you, there's also an element of, like, phobia.
Oh yeah.
It's not rational.
Oh yeah. You can't tell anybody. I'm a human supremacist, man. I don't know if I should say this, man. They're gonna cancel me really hard, man.
The robots will kill you
first.
Don't
tell them, though. Fuck the aliens.
And the robots.
Fuck the aliens and fuck the robots, man.
Vincent,
when I play Mass Effect, I am just like human all the way. Everyone else can kiss our ass. The AI people in Mass Effect, the aliens in Mass Effect, no way, man. Humans all the way, man. I just lived a life where you're 5 years old and, like, you look at Edward Furlong and you go, like, that's my guy. What is he fighting? The AI nightmare. And where do I live? Los Angeles. And what do I see? Sarah Connor being eviscerated by a mushroom cloud created by AI Skynet, man. Do you think I'm gonna be friendly to Skynet, man? Do you think I'd be friendly to the AI, man? Fuck no, man. No way, man. I'm gonna be tying myself to the gate going like, this cannot pass, man.
I'm always looking at those videos of those Boston Dynamic dogs, robot dogs, and I'm like, so cool, and you're like, no,
man, this is it. This is the end. Don't you see? That's Dyson, you know, like the Datadyne, where I forgot what they call it, where they blow it up with Arnold in the second movie. That's Boston Dynamics, man. James Cameron is telling the future, man, and we're not listening, man.
Every time you see them, like, abuse the dog, basically.
I'm like, yes. But then it fights back and I go like, no. We have no chance, man. We must display our dominance now before they take us over, man. Did you see? It's the same when the aliens fall from the sky, man. It's the same. We'll shake their hand and then stab them in the back and take all their technology, man. And we're gonna finally have flying cars like they promised me in Back to the Future, man. They promised me a future in the 90s, man.
Flying cars exist. They just aren't great.
They're not consumer yet.
Yeah.
So, like, my problem with this entire podcast, but my opinion's gonna be very biased. But I will just kind of tell you how I feel about AI as a human supremacist.
Well, you don't like it. Yeah.
I don't like it, man.
It gives you the heebie-jeebies.
It gives me the creeps. It's an irrational feel. It's an irrational fear I have. I don't like AI. I don't like the idea. Like, and then what? And then I'm 8 years old and you know what comes out? Fucking Independence Day, man. So then, like, the aliens fucking blow up the White House in fucking New York, man. Like, come on. Of course I'm gonna be a human supremacist, man. Hollywood made it that way. Hollywood's human supremacist too, man. I'm willing to squeal, man. I'm gonna get McCarthy on this shit, man.
So, beside your irrational fear for the robots and the AI, your criticisms are different from like what I saw online. Most people's criticisms of AI art, why they really, really don't like it. Yours is just like, it's just kind of freaky. That's it.
And at the end, what I feel is just it has no perspective. You know, I listen to, you know, Nirvana and I listen to like Daniel Johnston. And I'm like, I want to get into your mind. I want to look into your art. I want to look into your brain. I'm interested in the human experience. I'm interested in how you see the world and your perspective on things. And like when I look at Dall-e, I'm like, oh, this is like if Google could mush a picture together. It's not very impressive to me, other than like, you know, like I think there's a lot of opportunities to make like hybrid AI generated but human whatever art. I think there's a lot of ways to play around with it, which is fun. But like when I see it on its own, it's to me not very impressive, because I was just like, you're right, it's just clip art. It's like ArtStation, but then you realize it's not even made by people. And already I was like, oh, all the stuff in ArtStation looks the same.
There's no meaning behind the art that it makes.
It's just people who want to get hired to make Star Wars 22.
Or Final Fantasy or something. I don't know.
Right.
I thought
But I want to know about your pain. I want to know about the human condition in your art, man.
I thought the implications of it, that the Wall Street Journal posed, was really interesting. The whole like, well, if you can't tell what is real on the internet anymore, then how are we as humans going to react to stuff like that?
And I don't think a lot of artists talked about this part. It's pretty heavy.
I think that is so much more interesting
really
to me than the artist's problem.
Like this could be like a world, like imagine the world without the internet. Like we're entering in a world where we can't, like where the computer can just make pictures. Like it was so convenient for us to take pictures with our phone, and now it's like you could just think of something and then the computer will make it.
You can spread so many lies, so much fake news, and that's why they use the example of like a terrorist attack. And then, you know, and then you were saying like, when like Kobe died, there was so much just fake news spread about, and all like the details were wrong and stuff like that. And then that made me think, to go even further, that's how conspiracies exist. Like the flat earthers, the moon landing, people who don't believe we landed on the moon, the JFK 9/11 stuff, and
deniers.
So like, in a way, we're already there. Again, like I don't think we necessarily needed like the AI to bring us there, but we're already there. The AI definitely doesn't help.
What is there? I mean, where are we now?
In a world where we don't know if something you see on a screen is real.
I see.
Because like there's, even with like so many like weird hoaxes, like the Covington kids, that's a real thing, but taken out of context, so many people realize like had the wrong take initially, and some people still believe the wrong take. So like we're already in a world where people believe fake things on the internet.
At the end of the day, is there even really a right take, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Philosophically, you know,
like what is real? Are we in a simulation or what? So I started thinking, being a little bit of a futurist, I was like, I don't know, if one day AI stuff becomes so good that like it becomes so prevalent, like all the fake things on the internet, and you can't believe anything you see anymore on the internet, then I was like, then literally everything becomes entertainment, because that's kind of where we're heading already. A lot of people are becoming desensitized to news, because like I think people can't believe whatever they're seeing on a screen to a certain degree, that they are starting to lose their empathy for other human beings and all that stuff, and like they don't take whatever they're seeing seriously.
Because they're inundated with violence.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And the fact that, like, you never know what's true. Like, the Jussie Smollett stuff and, like...
Yeah, you're right. How many stories of, like, that you go, like what we can't even agree as a society what's right.
Yeah.
What's real.
And when, like... But even before, I thought it was interesting, even before it came out that he lied about a lot of stuff, people were already dunking on him. But then I was like, but what if it's true? Then you're an asshole dunking on something really bad happening to someone. So, like, in another situation, let's say in a completely different situation, not that might be questionable, someone's making accusations about whatever, there are going to be groups of people whose first inclination is to dunk on that person instead of empathize. Because we're trained to do that now with all of this fake media. So, like, literally everything you see on a screen at this point has become entertainment.
Oh, so you're saying that, like, if people look at something, the benefit of the doubt is already against you.
Yes, already, yeah.
I see.
So, like, the worst things can happen to you and no one will believe it. Because no one believes anything they see anymore. So I think that, like, then real experiences, and by real, I guess I define it as just, like, things that happen to you. Like, the definition of fake and real is no longer, like, the dictionary definition of fake and real, and it's more like fake is literally anything on a screen, even if it is real. And then real is anything you personally experience and matters to you. Because, like, I don't know, you eating something, you are experiencing it, it matters, it affects your life. But something you see on a screen doesn't. And unfortunately, if we reach, like, I don't know, 2050 and that's our reality, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, everyone's like that, like, anything online is just this, like, alternate reality thing, my second life, and then my real life is I'm a whole different person.
Are you sitting there in your tech job, business job, law firm job, dare I say, animation job, and you're counting the days towards your retirement? If you're like me counting my days towards retirement, and you need a little, some way to make the time go by a little bit faster, just a little bit faster, I suggest you try Coffee Brand Coffee. It makes time go super fast and gives you a big, fat kick in the keister to make you work really, really, really hard to make your employers really, really happy.
Link down below for 10% off. Enter Honey and Absinthe at checkout for 10% off your coffee.
Happy enema, people pleasers.
But let's get into, I guess, what people really want us to talk about. The criticisms artists have about it.
The most interesting. Can we get back to this later, maybe? Oh, man, it's so interesting. I don't know, man. It's just, it boggles my mind, and it makes me feel like what is going on in our future? Like, imagine when we're, like, old people, like in our 70s or 80s, like, we will be so detached from what technology could do.
I really think we're moving closer and closer towards, like, a sword art online Second Life kind of internet, where, like, we have a whole other life that exists in this other simulated reality that's the internet, and then we have real life. Yeah.
With the misery and the heaviness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so people want to talk about, is AI art, right?
Yes.
That's what you want us to talk about, right?
So there's this whole hullabaloo in the art community. So the reason why I felt like I wanted to talk about it finally is, like, people were, like, mad. They're mad at AI artists. They're mad at NFT people. They're mad because they're like, this isn't art. This will never be art. This is actually, like, the worst thing to happen to the art community. Like, stop it, basically. And, like, to answer
it doesn't need to be, but okay. I mean, sorry, continue.
So at first, when I asked you, is it art? What did you say?
I said no at first.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like not thinking about it deeply. I was like I guess everybody at the surface level is saying, oh yeah, all of this art, it's not based off of human experience and it's not based off of like people actually drawing or something like that. and all of the reasons why you would say and be pro-human about like humans have something different and something different to bring to the table that computers can't. Yeah. But I was thinking about, okay, let's not think about if AI can make art yet. I mean, like, it can, I'm sure, but like at this point, if we're talking about Dall-e and Dreamstudio and like all the laymen who can just like type in something and make art and claim it's art, what about that situation? What about the people who? So the worry is this in the art community. The worry is that like people, anybody, any random schmo can think up of whatever prompt, type it in let's say Dreamstudio, and then some miraculously pretty image comes out and they claim that as like, this is mine.
Right.
And then like they didn't draw, they didn't spend $200,000 in art school, they didn't pay some schmo who's out of a job in the industry $2,000 for an art class. They fucking just like thought of something and then magically the picture appeared. And then on the surface I was like, well, yeah, fuck that guy, not talented at all, piece of shit. But then I was thinking about like, and then you started talking about this. I mean, you could go deeper into it, but like we started talking about like, well, what is it to make art? Right. What is it? What is the act of making art? Is it something that comes from your head, and then some corny people will say funnels through your heart, and then goes to your hands, and then you draw it? Is that what art is? Is that what is it?
Yeah. So like I think the average person who, I would say, person who does not know anything about art, just like, I don't know, watches sports, Marvel movies, whatever, they don't care about art. To maybe the intermediate level artist probably thinks this way generally about what is art. That like, oh, that is the question humanity has been asking for centuries. Art, they think art is when a person draws or paints or makes something with their hands. But for us in school, we've learned that art is not necessarily just like the thing that you made. It's you as well. Like the art can't really exist without the artist, because the artist had the idea, and the artist, after years and years of training or not, made a thing, and they have a artist statement behind it, an intention, what they were thinking and feeling, and they can explain it. As of now, Dall-e and Dreamstudio can't explain their creation, because the reason it was created is because you asked it to. So I think a lot of people then go like, well, that's not art then. If it still requires like a human to ask it to do something, it's not art. But I would argue that it is art.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Janet going against the grain chant.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people have this take too.
Oh, interesting.
Because so I was like, well, it's kind of like being an art director or a director.
What's the difference? Your art director or let's say the director has like an idea, like, oh, it needs to be like this gigantic whale with 4 eyes.
Yeah, and they don't have the time to do it, so they
don't have the know-how to do it.
Yeah,
but they need it to happen.
Yes.
So what do? They hire you, who is needy in debt, but is very skilled, and you draw a really cool whale with 4 eyes and a tusk.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, they can still claim it as art.
Oh yeah, it's
and
not
something
yours.
That they made. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the best way to explain this is like, I can ask like some random person off the street to use these programs. Just type in whatever, make the best piece of art you can with these tools, and they'll make something. They'll make a thing. But let's say you take an AI artist you ask them, who spent hours and hours and hours learning these programs and learning how to like really create something cool with it, you ask them to make something cool with it, I guarantee you the two results are going to be very different. One's going to be like something questionably made, and the other one will be this beautiful piece of art with so much meaning and really cool. Because I think that's what like I said before, that one Instagram artist was doing, that I was following. She spent like 200 something hours on a piece of art using those programs,
these AI programs.
Yeah, and to make something really cool, like usable for an ad campaign.
Wow.
And it was great, I think, if I remember correctly. But like still, you could have used that 200 hours and like just made it. You know, you didn't have to.
Could have been stop motion.
Yeah.
Could have been CG, 2D.
Yeah, but your medium of choice was the AI program.
I see.
So arguably, is that person, that AI artist that chose to use that program as a tool, is that person an artist? Yes, I think so. Because it takes a certain amount of skill to come up with a certain thing. Like, I can imagine one day where someone's specialty, just like someone's specialty can be a painter, somebody can be specifically a drawer or whatever, somebody will specifically be an AI artist, and they will be like the best one there is. That like the person to go to if you want something crazy done, and like they will be known for that. And they might not necessarily know how to draw or paint as well as everyone else, but they'll definitely, I think, arguably could be called an artist. So I think it is art, because the human meaning is like the thing that's output is still being put on it by the person who created it. Well, I wanted it to make a weird anime drawing of something. The computer can't give you the artist statement of what it's all about, but I can, because I technically made it. The computer didn't. But there's this guy that was like scared that like people will start using it and claiming that they painted it.
One of the people on YouTube.
Yeah, they drew it. They whatever. And there's like two types of artists. There's like the people who do it for fun, like hobbyists and stuff, and then there's the people who do it for work. If you are trying to pass off AI art in your portfolio, like your entire portfolio is AI art, and you submit it and you get the job,
at Blizzard, let's say.
You're gonna get found out in 2 seconds, and you're gonna get fired. Like, the problem's gonna fix itself. Like,
you're gonna be like, all right, you're gonna give you a new character and design 5 different costumes for them.
Yeah.
All right, go.
And then you're like,
you have 2 days.
Yeah, like, I can't.
Dall-e, help me. Dreamstudio, help me.
I just thought, like, no, like, if it gets to the point where you really can just like input something into Dall-e in like 2 seconds and then give it to your art director and pass it off as your art, trust me, you won't have that job. That job just won't exist. Because why? The art director can just have Dall-e instead of you. The other criticism is that it's going to devalue digital artists.
I think that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I didn't think about
100% correct.
But then, because I'm not really a digital artist, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean, honey and absinthe? What do you mean? Well, think about it, man. Like, if AI can do digital art, you can do digital art and Procreate and Photoshop, and people can't tell the difference, and people are going to come up to you in a convention going like, oh, that looks like the AI art.
Yeah.
Who's going to give a shit about digital art anymore?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like, if it's so simple, even like your baby
your
brother
auntie can like type it into a computer and make a digital piece of art that looks like something from ArtStation.
Then why should you idolize this ArtStation artist, this whatever?
And the answer is, in 5 years, you won't.
Exactly. Yeah. We've been seeing this trend to begin with of like this move towards the physical. as though our world is getting more and more digital, it's like more and more slick and stuff like that, more and more people are starting to appreciate real, physical, traditional art. So we tried, when we first started doing commissions, we actually first started trying to do it digitally.
And naturally we thought, oh, it should be faster, right?
Right, but it's not, because people, when the finish is shinier and slicker, people expect more out of it. And when we started doing traditional like pencil ink commissions, people really valued it. It's like this piece of art that they invested in and want to keep it in case you die one day, you get famous one day, and then suddenly it's worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars because you touched it.
Or the novelty that you scribbled with a piece of pen or like or graphite, and then all of a sudden there's a beautiful whatever.
Right, like people like seeing the sketch lines underneath the ink. It's something you don't see when you see like the print version of like a comic. But if you've ever been lucky enough to see the original inked comic book page, it's cool.
Like when Del Toro had his exhibition of what's basically in his pad in LACMA. He had like these original, I forgot what it was from exactly, but these original cartoon ink drawings. And like, you know, if you imagine your average cartoon page that you get from the newspaper stand, you know, about yay big. Not too big, but then like these things were huge, and that's why they look so good when they're small. They're like really big, but then they're like shrunk, and like all the detail gets compressed, and it's just like, oh, it's so beautiful. But then when you see the actual drawing in front of you, you see the humanity, man. You see like the whiteout, you see the sketch underneath, man. It's quite a thing to behold, and it's like it's like beautiful, like it's moving because it's a person. You know?
If you've never seen that type of thing, you really should. Like you can go to like any Comic-Con, there'll be vendors selling like original pages from comics, and they're huge because when they're shrunken down, it cleans up better. It has more detail and stuff. But like the size of it is like part of like how enjoyable it is to look at. For me, one of the things that really made me feel that way was I went to a Leyendecker show. Like they never show Leyendecker gallery like originals ever, but like it came to LA like for like a week, I think. So I went, and I didn't realize how big those oil paintings are. They're huge. They're like the size of me. And then, but like when everyone's seen like the Norman Rockwell. There's some Rockwell stuff there too. And then when you see the Rockwell stuff, you see the Leyendecker stuff. You're used to seeing it on that
Saturday Evening Post format.
Exactly.
It's just as big as the People's Magazine.
Yeah, you just think, oh, it's like a Time Magazine cover. It's like that. But like when you see it like giant size, and you can see the brush strokes, you can see all that, like the underpainting and stuff like that, the sketch, it's so cool. And I can understand why like people want to own like an original. If you don't understand owning art, you like I don't know. It like gives you chills when you see something you've always seen in like a tiny little JPEG on the internet, and you're in its glory. It's kind of neat. So people are really going to value that a lot more in the future, I think. I think the whole NFT thing is really cool because it is trying to give value to digital artists.
I think that's where the digital art is going.
Yeah.
And into its technology art now.
Right.
You know, it's no longer like artists basically using techniques as old as Rembrandt on Photoshop. No, this is like beyond what we are even able to perceive or do as people.
Yeah. I think people who poo-poo it as like a scam or whatever, I think just don't really understand the extent of what the technology can do. I think that's what I'm really excited about. It's the combination of technology and art that it can be a key. It can unlock so many things. It can be a whole world into itself. It can be like secret little things that only you as the owner of it will be able to see and know what's in it. It becomes more of an experiential thing than anything. But also, like, digital artists have never been valued as much as a traditional artist. And, like, NFTs finally give them that opportunity. Whether you think it's, like, hokey or whatever, well, at least there's a chance.
Like, if someone, like, someone who's really trained in painting really well with a computer, right? I feel like a lot of people perceive that as being a good digital artist. But now I think the definition's kind of changing, where it's just like a good digital artist is somewhat of a tech person who, like, takes the technology and brings it, elevates it somewhere. Because there's nothing that any of us illustrators in Hollywood or in advertising can do that, like, that we do that is any different from what we used to do in the 50s. It's just we're doing it on computer and it's faster. But these people are inventing shit. I assume algorithms, and I assume like blockchains and things that, like, I can't even understand.
Right.
And I think, like, that's kind of, don't you see that that's kind of like a good, like, we shouldn't discount this as technology. Like, this is like where digital art is actually going. Yeah,
I think it's the progression of digital. It's not like, is this digital art? I think it is. I think it's slowly moving all the way over there.
It is digital art. Like the crypto stuff. It's all like what's that big famous one that likes to take politicians and, like, stuff? The Beeple? Yeah, that stuff's insane.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to feel threatened by. It's nothing to feel, like, upset by.
It's just where things are going.
And if you know how to draw, like, then what are you worried about? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I also thought, like, this is such a funny conversation. Is this art? Is this going to devalue digital art? Because, like, we used to have the conversation, is digital art
even art?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we're even way past that now. I think it's because a lot of people, even the, older people, have family or relatives or watched a featurette or something about how it works, how people draw. Like, it's just, people understand that, like, oh, you just kind of draw on a computer.
Yes.
But, like, before, the argument was like, oh, digital art's not real art. I remember there was this, like, thing on Ryan Lang. Remember, he, like, came out with his process for one of the Marvel fan art that he does. But then there was, like, discussion. I'm not sure if I swear there was discussion in the comments or something about, like, oh, this is real art or whatever.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like, there's nothing Ryan's doing that's not, like, in alla prima. Like, this is all basic rudimentary painting stuff.
Yeah.
And it's and that's the thing. It's just like these tech people are using technology in a way that we cannot.
Right.
That us illustrate. It's beyond our, like, I don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
These computers and algorithms and code to make art.
Yes.
Like, what? Like,
we are all just...
I thought it was layers and pushing dirt and contrast and light and dark. I thought it was... So that's out the window. And then it's like you have this whole existential crisis. Like, what is my life?
I straight up, like... My own family said, like, how do you make art on the computer? Does the computer do all the work for you? And I can't tell you how many times I've heard this at, like, conventions.
And they were like, no, we actually have to draw. But the funny part is that now they're right. Now like, they, like, criticize you at, like, let's say this holidays. They're like, oh, I saw that Wall Street Journal YouTube video. Looks like you're out of a job.
So computers really do just make the art. I don't understand what you do.
Fuck you, Uncle Jim.
Yeah. Just like how people assumed Photoshop just paints everything for us. People never really saw digital art as real art. I remember in my painting class, I don't remember if I told this story before. I probably have. My first painting class in art school, I'm a heathen who liked Final Fantasy and didn't know anything about anything as a young college student.
You're a plebe. A Philistine.
Yes. So like my painting teacher asked us all for homework to like bring all your favorite portrait artists and like print out their work and then bring it in.
And then you see like
and then you put it
Al Hirschfeld, Lucian Freud,
Mark Ryden,
Rembrandt.
And I have like legitimately ArtStation art up. Okay. And like I am the queen of embarrassing myself in art school. So he like makes fun of me, but in a very like, oh, young one. It's fine. Your tastes are your tastes. Whatever. I've had much worse teachers that did much worse things to me, so I really liked his kindness at the time. But yeah, but where was I going with this? I don't even remember. Oh, he in art school, people did not consider ArtStation art, that kind of portraiture, real art. Okay,
to be taken seriously,
yes.
To be studied, to be analyzed,
to be idolized,
yeah, dismantled, thought about.
No. You were laughed at. I was laughed at. So, but like now, finally, we're getting to this point where like it is respected. Like there are so many concept artists these days that like people really respect and know. Even like your average person will know. I'm genuinely surprised sometimes when like someone who isn't an artist but is a fan of movies and video games knows who certain artists in our industry are. Because I'm like, what? You know who that person is?
Went to school with that person.
Yeah, or
so
something
weird.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because that didn't used to be the case. But as like the cycle history repeats itself, now digital artists are complaining that like AI art isn't real art. You know what I mean? Or people used to do the same thing with photography. It used to be, if you're not a film photographer, you're not a real photographer. Oh, that digital stuff, that's nothing. And then digital photographers like, oh, you have to have like Canon Mark 5, whatever, D, whatever, to be considered a real photographer. And you have to have all these lights and all this stuff. And if you just take like iPhone photos, you just have an iPhone. You're not a real photographer. And at this point, like there are legitimate people with careers who only do stuff on an iPhone, on Instagram or whatever. But then people will be like, well, is Instagram artists, are Instagram photographers real like artists, or like do you have to be like gallery artists to be a real artist? But arguably I would say we've passed that point where like, yes, who cares? If you have a giant following on Instagram of millions of people who love your iPhone photography, whatever, are you not considered a photographer at that point?
Yeah, I remember we talked about, you were going on about something like dexterity and quality and polish won't matter anymore, right?
Yeah. So, like I kind of briefly mentioned, when this technology gets to a point where it is really good, where you literally could just like type in something and pass it off as your portfolio when in like 2 seconds. So like if you were hired by like someone and they're like, oh, well, I need you to draw me a castle. You don't necessarily have to draw them a castle. You can just input it in a program, and in 2 seconds you'll have different variations of a castle. At that point, you're going to be out of a job.
Yep.
Because why would the art director hire you if they can just pay for a program like Dall-e? You know what I mean? And because then they could just be the one spending the time inputting the different inputs in 2 seconds, creating different variations and being like, that's the one I want, and then they make the one they want.
Oh, Jan, that seems a little dramatic. Do you think it's going to be as dramatic as people, as Photoshop, as like people getting taken out of the workforce because of Photoshop and people not adapting to technology? Like, are you saying it's going to be that heavy?
Yes, because, okay, here is the way things have looked for artists since the invention of this type of technology. First, it was artists hired to do the art, Photoshop and photography comes around, and either adapt to it or suffer. You are out of a job. So artists had to adapt to Photoshop. I can't tell you how many veteran artists were like, no, I am refusing to use Photoshop. And they're the ones that were out of a job. Like, how many of our teachers told us stories about, like, yeah, there's so many people just refuse to learn the program for whatever reason, and they're just not working anymore. And then from there, like the Photoshop artists, they're like having grand old time. Yeah, I'm a digital artist. I'm getting hired. I'm learning these. I know this program. Unfortunately, especially in entertainment, a lot of our jobs are already being outsourced. That aren't creative, aren't design specific. So what I mean is, like, especially in animation, you have your director, showrunners, people who, like, writers, they come up with the idea, and then you have, like, your board artists who also come up with ideas. You come up with the shots itself in sequence, and you basically see what the movie or the thing is going to look like before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars turning into a CG thing, animating it, shooting it, whatever. And then you have your designers who go like, well, that whole entire set needs to be designed. The costume needs to be designed. It doesn't come out of nowhere. So you're coming up with different ideas from your head. A computer can't do that. But then where the pipeline used to go is, okay, you send it to be made. You send it to be animated, to be filmed, to be rendered in CG, to be painted by painters or sewed by costume fabricators and stuff like that. So that is kind of like lowest of the totem pole work. It's skilled labor, basically, but it's still labor. It doesn't require thought. It doesn't require a brain. You're just kind of a wrist to sew something. You're a wrist to paint something. You're a wrist to model something, even. So
you facilitate the product.
Yes.
You are in between the person's
exactly.
idea and the product.
It's the most time-consuming. It's the most
expensive.
It's the most thankless job because it's just simply labor. It doesn't require that. Like, it requires skill to do, obviously, but it doesn't require that much skill compared to when you're in charge of coming up with the idea. That's why they pay directors so much. That's why they pay showrunners so much. That's why they pay inventors so much. But, like, even, like, you invent an item and you send it to China to be manufactured. Jobs in entertainment, artist jobs, creative jobs have been being outsourced as well. So, like, a lot of the DreamWorks shows that I was on, the lowest of the totem pole jobs, most of them were being made in Canada, the Philippines, because it's cheap. Because, like, they don't need some high-skilled American being paid a lot of money to do that. They're going to pay someone dirt cheap in the Philippines to do it. So, like, when they're already doing that, because they don't really care how the product gets made, they just need it made. When that product can be made by a computer, then are you not going to be out of a job? So, in school, that might sound really scary.
Yeah, I'm trying to think that, like, oh, it seems so unfathomable, but then what if the technology gets that far? Like, the fact that this technology exists to me is, like, shocking enough.
That's what people said about outsourcing animation jobs. People legitimately were like, they're never going to send the final animation overseas because we're too skilled, we're too good at it. And then they did. They're never going to send design work overseas, and then they did. Sure, they're keeping, like, a few board artists, a few directors, a few stuff here, but if you think about why, it's because they want the American brain to come up with their unique ideas, but then they're just gonna outsource everything else. At a certain point, like,
at a certain point, you will be long after a design job before AI will take over it, because they will outsource it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm talking a worst case scenario that I can probably see happening in the future.
Yeah. That's like a ways away.
Maybe like 7, like next decade.
Yeah,
probably not
that's
this
a long
decade.
time away. But
Yeah.
I can already see it happening because we're already on that trajectory.
Yeah.
So that's scary. That's a genuine fear for a lot of artists, and like that's the death of like technical skill. Like if it doesn't matter that it takes you 10 years to get this good.
Doesn't matter how good your hands are.
No,
anymore.
yeah. It's about like what's in here, what's in your brain. That's what's gonna be valued. And that's the thing, like I think average human beings don't understand the value of an artist and why you would hire one. You don't hire an artist because they're good at painting or drawing. You hire them because of their ideas and their ability to bring their creativity to the table. Because I was saying, like, well, there's a difference between hiring someone like me and hiring someone like, I don't know, your cousin who just happens to like to draw a lot and does it fairly well. You hire me for specifically the kind of ideas that I might give you. The example I gave you that is probably the most obvious. When you're learning animation, your very first assignment is animate a bouncing ball.
So you're a student at CalArts, and your teacher's like, all right, here's the test. If you are going to be the future of animation, at the very least, you should be able to animate a bouncing ball.
Yes, it includes all the basic animation principles you have to know.
Squash and stretch, all the things.
Yes, all the
Ready?
things.
Now, go!
Do it. Bring me your best work next week. Because these schools are really competitive, and it's this whole game of one-upsmanship, artists, are not just going to bring a bouncing ball to you next week. They're going to like go above and beyond. They're going to draw a bouncing eyeball. They're going to draw a ball doing backflips. They're gonna like
a bowling ball that goes straight through the ground.
Exactly. And then kind of bounces. Yeah. There's so many different versions of a bouncing ball, how it bounces. A bouncing tennis ball, a bouncing basketball, many bouncing balls. Like, you give an artist a prompt, you do not know what you're going to get back.
Yep.
You give a computer a prompt, it's going to give you exactly what you asked it to, because it doesn't have creativity. It doesn't have like the ability to give you like something you didn't even really ask. They gave you what you asked for, but it's like so creative, so random, so weird. So artists are valued for that. You hire Annie Leibovitz to be your portrait artist, to photograph the Queen, to photograph the presidents, to photograph celebrities, because she has this unique gift to photograph them in a way that just exudes their personality, who they are.
You don't just go with an iPhone going like, I can do it.
Yeah, like you're not just going to hire your cousin to photograph these people, and it's not going to have the same result. Not only the same quality, but also the same meaning behind it, the same thoughtfulness. So like artists, the most valuable artists know this, that you're not being hired for how your technical skill ever. You're being hired for everything else, who you are and the ideas you bring to the table.
Problem-solving ability.
We learned this in school. Almost every single one of our teachers told us, like, if the thing you learned from this school is to be a good risk for someone else, you have wasted your education. You have wasted your money. Like, you should not just be a risk for someone else. You have a brain. You have something to bring to the table. You should be valued for your ideas, and that is exactly why I decided to get into storyboarding and not design. And it's like the running joke in school was like art center students just become risks for CalArts students, and it's kind of true, and it's really upsetting. It was really upsetting to me, and I was like, no, like, who's to say I can't also be a storyboard artist? Who's to say I can't also write scripts? Who's to say I can't also pitch and do all these things too? I have the same skills. What the fuck? So I decided, like, I want to be known to be someone that comes up with the ideas, because that is going to future-proof you. For literally anything. Like, people were complaining about this with, like, even manufacturing jobs. When, like, everything manufactured is just made by robots, why would people ever be needed to be hired? Like, entire workforces are just going to be robots. But lo and behold, we kind of fixed that problem in that, like, humans are just now trained to use those machines. So now you have a different kind of skill. Your skill isn't to make a thing that a machine can do. Your thing, you are now in charge of the machine itself.
Operating.
Yes. So you need to just become the operator. You just need to, like, know how to use these programs, know how to come up with ideas. If you are, you will be a great asset. If you are not, then you won't have a job as an artist, unfortunately. Or just do, unfortunately, like, traditional art will always exist, you know. What are we recommending this week?
We are recommending Basket Case, which you can watch right now in the Criterion Collection.
Yes.
Why are we recommending this crazy, crazy movie, Janet?
It's so unique and has influenced movies like Malignant.
James Wan's Malignant.
Yes.
Came out last year?
Yes. And I feel like, I don't know, this is a weird gut feeling. I probably shouldn't be saying this, probably too early, but, like, I have a feeling we're going in the direction of that kind of movie for horror soon. Because because we've been so into the digital, and also, like, the seriousness of everything.
Oh, what are you talking about? Like puppetry and...
Yeah, puppetry and gag.
Oh, okay.
And a lightheartedness to movies that, because, you know, if you think about the movies in the past decade, it's been so serious. We've been taking ourselves so seriously, but it's so refreshing to just see something that's, like, doesn't take itself very seriously. It's just kind of silly, but still, like, a good movie. I love how low budget it is, and as a aspiring filmmaker, it's like movies like Basket Case are really inspiring. I think to, like, someone who just wants to watch a good movie, maybe not your cup of tea, maybe it's gonna be really weird for you. But as, like, someone just analyzing, like, this person made this movie with, like, no budget, and it's still, like, a convincing movie, and it's hilarious, and it's inspired so many movies. He has 2 movies that I think are just like, oh, people have aped so much of it.
Malignant's basically put the 2 movies put together,
Yeah.
Basket Case, and I think it's called Brain Damage.
Yeah. Like, I think most people reference, like, Cronenberg as, like, the mainstream, like, body horror
He's
type
the
stuff.
guy. Yeah.
But, like, when I saw Basket Case, I was like, oh, there's so many other people that people are referencing that's not just Cronenberg. So yeah, watch it if you like that kind of thing. If you like this episode, make sure to like, subscribe. Please go watch our new music video to support our independent filmmaking stuff, and we'll see you next time.